Hello, the dollar's been retracing quite aggressively since early November, yet we believe its uptrend initiated in September still has possibly a few months to go, or until year end at least. And so the retracement that we're currently seeing may be a very interesting buy the dips opportunity that could materialize over the next few days. We'll move on to our FinGraphs platform to have a view of the charts. We'll first look at euro-dollar on a weekly chart or the perspective over the next few quarters. And as you can see, the euro-dollar has been correcting up since late 2016. And at the moment, this uptrend has been quite nice, but it is still corrective. It came up, went into our corrective targets, which were between 117 and 124, and has since been working its way. We believe that these corrective targets will act as a strong resistance over the next few months, and that the euro could see some more retracement towards year end. Let's turn to the daily chart or the perspective over the next few months. As you can see, we had an initial correction down for the euro until early November, and then the current bounce that we've seen since earlier this month. We're still in a downtrend according to our charts, and our corrective targets have not quite been reached yet. We can see that our targets are between 116 and 113, and we believe that towards year end we could resume the downtrend here to possibly reach perhaps not the lower end, but at least into the 115, 114s. We also see quite a lot of risk at the moment. We were overbought in September and October. Did come down a bit, but we're overbought again here on our risk index. And also what we could say, and that we foresaw quite well over the last few weeks, is that the head and shoulder here did not work, and that head and shoulder was actually a trap, and we saw that quite well. But now we believe that our envelopes are at stressed again and could reverse down for another corrective move to the downside on the euro. Now looking at the hourly, we can see the rebound of the euro that we've seen since 2 weeks ago, and it probably has another week or so to go and could eventually get into the 119s, even or the 119.40s where we almost been already, and even into the 120s. That said, our envelopes are touching each other and our risk index is overbought. So we don't believe that this move has that much potential left and that it's possibly getting exhausted. Now looking at the recap of all three frequencies, we're in a correction up on the euro since December 2016, and we reached our corrective targets, a zone where we should see quite a bit of resistance over the next few quarters. The move up since late last year made an important intermediate top early September. It has retraced down and then rebounded. We believe this rebound puts us in a risky position again, with our envelopes touching each other and our risk index back and overbought. So we would believe that a new retracement period should materialize on the euro. And the bounce that we've seen over the last few weeks has had a very strong move and is slowly getting exhausted. We're close to our targets and our risk index is overbought. Now we will move on to dollar yen to confirm this view. Well, dollar yen is now in a downtrend, and we believe that this downtrend may be the right signal, but possibly quite a long-term signal. So we'll probably be looking at levels perhaps below 100, but here we are in an impulsive move down and we'll probably expect them towards the end of next year. In the meantime, we do expect that the current base that was made between 2016 and mid this summer could possibly have more momentum into it, and that it could rebound a bit further into 2018. So we would expect a bounce here into early next year, and then to move lower as the year develops into the targets that we see here. Our slightly positive view here is also corroborated by the fact that our risk index is still quite low, and that it seems to be making two lows, one higher than the other one, which does bring a base that could see it rebound slightly further. And that's what we see here on our daily chart, which is still heading up at the moment over the next few months, and could lead us back up to 117 and possibly 120 into year end and possibly early next year. So that would be our initial targets before we move back down again towards the second half of next year. And we can see that the risk index, which was almost overbought a few weeks back, has now come down quite nicely. It's not yet quite oversold, but it's also building a base here, which could be an interesting buy the dips opportunity to fetch this move up. Now on the hourly, we could see that we're getting close to an oversold condition. Our risk index is close to our oversold band, and our targets down have almost been reached. We believe that's probably another week or so to go, and we could make it below 111 and even 110 until the move is exhausted. But slowly, during the course of this week, we believe we could see an interesting buy the dips opportunity. Now moving on to the recap of all three charts, we can see that the weekly is slightly negative, but we believe that we will see a bounce before the negativity materializes, possibly into early next year. The daily is heading up and possibly for another few months and into the 117, 120 levels. And the hourly has retraced quite nicely over the last few weeks and may present an interesting buy the dips opportunity during the course of this week. Now, looking at gold, we have a similar picture as the yen and dollar yen in reverse. We could see that we are still in an uptrend here, and that this uptrend could lead us above 1,500. But we also think here that this time target is quite onto a long investment horizon, so towards the end of next year. In the meantime, we've probably started a correction, and we believe this correction is not quite over yet. We can see our risk index has reversed down, and that this reversal could continue slightly longer. So we would also expect here some consolidation into early next year. This is what we could see here on the daily chart. We've made it down to our corrective targets down. We've had a slight bounce over the last few weeks, but we believe that we should see another leg down, another retest down, possibly into year end. Now, looking at the hourly, we've been moving up since late October, but the move is slowly getting towards a point where it could reach its targets. We would probably be sellers of gold above 1,300, somewhere between 1,300 and 1,312. We could also see that our risk index is getting slowly overbought. So this is probably an opportunity to go short again on gold. So still positive towards end 2018, but we believe we're in an intermediate correction, possibly to the downside until early next year. The correction has started to materialize. We believe there's another leg down towards year end on our daily chart, and our hourly chart has had a decent rebound, but it's slowly getting into its targets, into an overbought situation where it could resume its downtrend again. Finally, if effectively the dollar continues its bounce up from September, the stock market that should benefit is the Euro Stoxx 50 future, and we believe that it looks quite advantageous over the medium to long term, and that the current dip here presents an interesting buy the dips opportunity. What we can see is that the risk index is moving up and is not quite overbought yet. Our envelopes are not quite touching each other yet, and the targets still lead us into the 3,700 up to possibly 4,100 over the next few quarters. Now, if we look at the daily, it's also heading up. You can see that here it had a strong retracement on the bounce of the euro, but we could still make it back at least to the tops and slightly above them into 37 over the next few months. Our risk index is in the middle of the range, seems to be turning up again, and it is not overbought yet. So we believe there's an opportunity to see a further leg up here also on the Euro Stoxx 50. And we've seen quite a nice move down early in November, but we've probably reached the base now. We're still corrective, so we could see some work here during the week, possibly retesting lows. But our risk index is now very much oversold. So at some point, you should be able to turn up and start moving up more aggressively. So in general, we're still in an uptrend on the weekly, we're still in an uptrend on the daily. We've had a nice dip during November. That dip saw an oversold condition, and slowly, perhaps following a few more retests, we should see the Euro Stoxx start moving up again towards the end of the month, December, and the end of the year and early next year. Thank you very much, and have a good week.